My name is Sheila Gwilliam. I moved to Bath in 1967 and I opened this shop. The street was pretty deserted and I'd been in London and I had been involved with clothes. I lived at the top of Portobello Road and I had two stalls, one on a Friday in the scruffy end with the totters, the horse and carts, and the other one was what we called the posh end. It wasn't that posh, it was just a stall in an arcade. A chap who came found me. In fact, he was down the scruffy end of Portobello Road. He had a horse called Hercules, and Hercules was the horse they used in Steptoe and Son. And he said to me, did I want to buy some clothes? I said, of course I do. He had the clearance of two big theatrical costumiers in London. They were amalgamating and they didn't want anybody to have the residues of stock, which they couldn't handle. So he assured them that he would burn them, but of course he didn't burn it. He came to my flat in Portobello Road and filled my flat to the ceiling in old theatrical clothes and whatever. And that's how I started. My partner at the time, a jazz musician, Bobby Mickleborough. He wanted to move to Bath. Reluctantly, I said I would because I was very happy at the top of Portobello Road. And we moved to Bath and took lorry loads of theatrical clothes down to this shop here. The shop was terribly cheap, so I moved in here and opened up, and Bob sold his musical instruments and we sold junk and we sold clothes and we sold anything we could lay our hands on. I discovered that they had a plan to put a tunnel scheme from the top of Walcott Street to the bottom, and that's where they were going to go underneath Bath in tunnels and come up at Queen Square. God knows why. It was absolutely hopeless. But anyway, I thought, that's not very good. That means my shop's going to be knocked down and everything's going to disappear. And why have I moved? So I decided to try and stop it.
Traffic, that was the problem. Good though the Georgian builders were, circuses, squares, crescents, but no car parks, no park and rides, no multi-stories. The council's solution in the early 70s was to drive a motorway and a tunnel right through the centre of the city. What? In Bath? The natives were revolting.
There was very little going on in the newspapers, so it was time to have some stuff about the tunnel scheme in the papers. So I decided to do a march along the Royal Crescent with banners and people following, and my partner Bob Mickleborough playing the trumpet and Scotty on the drums and other people playing instruments. So we could make a lot of noise and wake Bath up to what was about to happen. So we all went up to the Royal Crescent. Trouble is, we didn't really get organised on a lot of people because it was done so quickly. But anyway, we got up there with all our paraphernalia to start the march and everybody playing their instruments. And I thought, what are we going to do? We've got all these banners made and we need people to carry them. At that moment, the German bus turned up at the end of the Royal Crescent with about 50 jolly Germans in there. And so I thought, they would be interested because I'm sure they wouldn't want the Royal Crescent to be knocked down or any part of Bath. So I went along with my placards to the bus. I went along and I said, would you mind carrying a banner for me along the Royal Crescent because we're hoping to save it. It might be knocked down. It wasn't actually true because they weren't going to knock the Royal Crescent down, but I thought that might frighten them. So off we went, about 40, 50 people carrying banners, and they walked behind the band and all the rest of us, ragtag and bobtails, and we walked the length of the Royal Crescent. We'd walked them one way and then we came back and we got to the end of that. They then walked to their coach And as they got in the coach and I took the banners off them, I said, Dankeschön, Dankeschön, Dankeschön. They smiled, I smiled, and off they went. And it was very successful and looked very good in the newspapers. All these people that were anti-tunnel, and they hadn't a clue basically what it was all about. But it was good fun anyway. Glastonbury, the first thing is I've had a bloody row. Right, show the front then. We started going to Glastonbury in 1993. It was a very chilled out place, Glastonbury. You just turned up with your vehicles and you found your spot, and there was lots of lovely people either side in a big long row of us, you know, and I didn't really have a marquee in the beginning. We were a bit ramshackle, and we just put a few scaffolding poles up and a big sheet on top, and that did it. And we just put the rails and the clothes up, and everybody either side, they were all lovely in our little row. And Mr. Eavis used to come. He used to come and sit with us in those days. It was so lovely. He was such a lovely man. It was so free and easy.
Is your fashion letting you down? Come to the double sale 50p.
When I first did Glastonbury, everybody was dressing up. All that era, the 80s, 90s, etc. Everybody dressed up. People went to parties, they dressed up. In those days, they would come into my store. I would make about 100 tutus, and they would buy tutus, and I had absolutely loads and loads of glitter, and everybody wore long dresses, glittery dresses, short stuff, anything that was they fancied. Butterfly tops, they were very popular, 60s butterfly tops, and that's what we did in those days, and everybody dressed up, and it was great. And even the police, when they used to come round, looking around the stalls, and I used to decorate their horses and put glitter on the police helmets and dress them up, you know, so they look good in Glastonbury. So they're part of it. They liked that. We had lots of adventures. We had lots of rain.
There you go, Glastonbury 2005.
A time I was sleeping one end of the stall. I woke up to a lot of screaming. I thought, oh my God, the marquee's fallen on top of everyone. No, the rain had come in force and everybody was floating in the stall.
We had a disaster. We were all asleep and suddenly Robert screamed out. We all wondered what it was, but I actually wasn't asleep. I was somewhere else looking around, and he was floating on his lilo, and a river had sort of come through the whole camp. It was about a foot high or something, and everything was floating, and all the fruit and veg was floating, and people were floating. Oh my God! Oh, it's
so
funny,
we had to
but it's
sort of
sad,
shake ourselves up and get on with it and clear up and get the rain out and sweep it all out, the grass and so forth. But we all did it in good humour. Nobody got upset or cross or anything else. Glastonbury was like that.
Just a river of water running into the tent.